Hey everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and my co-host today is Dr. Dan Ratner. We have a very funny comic on today. You might know him from The Daily Show. He's a great correspondent, and his podcast, Tennis Anyone, is available everywhere. Let's welcome Michael Kosta. Michael, welcome.
Wow. Thank you, Ross the Boss. Thank you, Dr. Dan. It's a privilege to be here.
So, Michael, great to have you. I mean, I don't know if people know this about you. You were a pro tennis player. This might not sound impressive, but this is impressive. You were number 864. You also rated in the 300s in doubles.
Yep.
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, I know people are focused on the top 10 when it comes to tennis, but I mean, tell me about how much dedication you had when it came to tennis when you were playing professionally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the person who is last on the bench for the Clippers or the Lakers or the Nets. That person has devoted their life to basketball. You don't know who they are, or they've probably never scored a point, but they have devoted their life to it. So I used to say on stage, I was ranked 864 in the world, and people would laugh. And I would say, well, what was your world ranking? And no one can, it's a joke, but it's also like, hey, I am aware that this isn't the highest number in the world, but man, did I work my ass off to get that. So I wear it with a badge of honor.
And there were only 863 people better than you. That's not that much.
It sounds funny, but it's really impressive. I mean, what type of workout did you do every day? Tell me your daily schedule when you were playing tennis professionally.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a non-match day, if it's a match day, everything is focused on the match and food for the match and hydration for the match, and if your body's warm and ready for the match. But if it's a non-match day, I like to do 2 practices a day. So I would always wake up and do a light workout. Could be a jog, could be, yoga, could be something to get the heart rate going. Then I would do a morning hit. Then I would do a lunch. Always took a nap, Ross. I know you like that because you sleep. You're half asleep during these podcasts half the time. And then I would do an afternoon workout. And then I would try to do a long, like focus stretch after. It's all day. It's all day. Your whole day.
It's a real job. And
like it's a real job. And the worst part is then sometimes I would go out and lose 6-1, 6-2. What the hell was I doing all this for?
Hey, listen, you could have lost 6-love. So you did some good work. But yeah, I'm aware, just as a big time sports fan, I watched tennis my whole life, how hard well, I'm not even aware of how hard it must be. That's what I want to ask you. How hard is it to be a professional tennis player at that level, both physically and mentally?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's more mental. I would say, actually, if I can just speak frankly, physically, I was pretty gifted in the sense that I probably was more physically gifted than my ranking. But I didn't have necessarily the best technique. I kind of grew up playing public parks. I didn't have expensive coaching. So I used to say I used to hit my first serve as hard as I could, run to net. And then if you got the ball back, well, you had a good chance to beat me. But, mentally, the hardest part is how often you lose. Man, do you lose. You lose every week you lose. If you win one tournament a year, that's excellent. In fact, that could finance you for the rest of the year. You lose your ass off. Okay. I mean, I lose so much that Ross's earpiece just fell out of his face. So that's the reality.
You lose so much that you attribute other people's failings to you. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You also played tennis in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I'm a Midwesterner from Cleveland. It was you for the Illini, and you won some titles there. Can you tell us about what was that experience like?
We had this insanely unique disruptor head coach named Craig Tiley, who's now the head of Tennis Australia and the tournament director for the Australian Open. He's South African. He took the University of Illinois tennis job when they were 0-10 in the Big Ten. And he said, I'm just going to win a national championship. Give me 10 years and I will win a national championship. He recruited loud, cocky, tall Americans. He developed a attitude, a brashness, a competitiveness that slowly changed college tennis. I mean, most people don't even know what college tennis is, but in the world, this was big. Illinois, University of Illinois, farm fields. You can smell the soy fertilizer when you're on campus there, was the #1 tennis team in the country. It made no sense. It was insane. And it was a wonderful thing to be a part of because I learned everything I learned about success, failure, attempting, trying, competitiveness from this insanely, unique point of view that he attacked for being successful.
I mean, talking about successful, let's talk about men's tennis now. Djokovic, we have Federer, and we also have Nadal. I mean, we're in an era right now which will never be repeated. All three of these guys have 20 Grand Slams, which is unprecedented. It's unbelievable. I mean, the closest after that is Pete Sampras with 14. And then nobody thought they would break 14. I mean, how crazy is it right now with these three guys? I mean, different ages. Federer's close to 40 and 35, I think, is Nadal, and I think early 30s is Djokovic. I mean, what's your opinion about men's tennis right now?
Well, when Pete won the U.S. Open in his last Grand Slam and won 14, the commentators were saying, take this in, everybody. You will never see this again. You'll never see somebody, and now we have 3 men who have 20. And Novak Djokovic is not slowing down. So I feel like, when you look back on civilization and there were certain centuries where life was great and plentiful and you didn't always know because you were living in the moment. Right now is like the golden ages of tennis. And I'm sad once Djokovic gets older and moves on because, man, is it plentiful. There is so much excellent tennis to watch. It's the best tennis players who've ever walked on earth. 3 of them are all playing against each other right now. So now, sadly, Federer's hairline starting to recede. Nadal's hairline is starting to recede. He lost at the French Open. He kind of limped away. Anybody who's watched a lot of tennis has never seen Rafael Nadal limp ever.
No, ever.
Okay, ever. The guy is like a street fighter who's never shown any weakness, period. So it is coming to an end. And not all tennis fans love Novak Djokovic. Chip on his shoulder. Kind of hates Roger and Rafa. Serbian boy who used to practice and would have to disrupt practice and go hang out in the bomb shelters during the Serbo-Croatian War. This is a scrapper. And when you watch him play, you can see that, but it isn't this beautiful, fluid Roger Federer dance that some tennis players have gotten accustomed to.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, of the 3, do you have a personal favorite?
Yeah. Roger is tough to beat. I mean, this guy could not be a better ambassador for the sport of tennis. He gives 4 press conferences in 4 different languages after every match, French, English, German, and Swiss German. He shows up to Wimbledon wearing a white Nike blazer with a matching Rolex. He's charming. He's sweet. He's nice. He's excellent for the sport. But I also, and a lot of us do, when we watch Novak, we kind of go, oh, I kind of have a little bit of that in me too. I kind of have that, you know what? Fuck you and fuck this establishment. I don't know if I can swear on this thing.
You can say anything you want.
Okay, Novak, he won't stab you in the back. He'll turn you around and say, look me in the eye, but he'll stab you. He's a dirty fighter. Yeah, he'll stab you in the face. So I just... They're such great personalities and they play so differently than each other. It's great.
Well, I've got a dead giveaway. I'm wearing a Federer shirt.
Yeah.
I just, with Djokovic, and Nadal, I was like, no, Federer's got this. Stop chasing him. Like, I can't help it.
I think the polish of Federer is remarkable, but as I've gotten older, I kind of see through some of that. Some of that is publicity. Some of that is Nike. Some of that is his clothing sponsor. And there's something about Novak that is more raw. Novak is this Anthony Bourdain kind of character where it just, he's more human. And in a way, I'm respecting that.
I mean, the 1970s was like a golden era for USA tennis. It really was. We had Vitas Gerulaitis, we had Connors, we had Macro. I mean, we had unbelievable players. Now I'm watching Wimbledon, and I don't even see any Americans like in the Sweet 16 anymore. I mean, what's going on with American tennis? Tell me why we're not doing well in men's tennis.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Gilbert, the famous player and author and commentator, has said repeatedly, and I second this, that until American juniors play way more clay court tennis, we're not going to be relevant on the world stage. Clay court tennis, not just, for those of you that don't know, it slows the ball down. Points are longer. Movement is different. You slide a lot. You don't always have your footing. Most American juniors, all American juniors, play on hard courts, almost like a basketball court. You have perfect footing. I came through the American junior tennis system. I played one match on a clay court. Then I go on to play professional. I signed up for this satellite. It was 4 tournaments in the Netherlands, and it was on red clay. And I said, I'll go play a little red clay. I know how to play tennis. I lost my first match to a 14-year-old kid who had one racket in his hand. Okay. I had like a 12 racket bag and and I flew in, and this kid, I was like, oh, I'm going to smoke this kid. He beat me like 1-1 in 45 minutes. He was dancing on the red clay. He'd been eating red clay for breakfast since he was born. The USTA and all the money they make from the US Open, which is roughly $400 million a year. Why aren't these kids, men and women, boys and girls, playing half the season on clay court?
I mean, have they focused on this? I mean, coming from Gilbert, it's a big person to say this kind of stuff. I don't know why they're not taking his recommendation. I mean, it makes no sense, and we're not getting any better. I mean, all these guys like Mateo and all these other guys, all these young guns that are coming up, they're not Americans.
I think it all comes down to motivation. Once America gets motivated to do it, they'll start doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a coach that would say, "Hey, you'll change when it's important to you," and it would just cut so hard. Oh God damn it! Did he just say that I have to? Yeah, and that same coach would say, "Hey, are you tired? You're taking a lunch break." There's literally someone in Russia who just put a string up in between 2 light posts who's like practicing volleys right now. So, yeah, is it a testament to Americans' grit, to kids being spoiled? Possibly. But there are a lot of American tennis players. But I would like to start with clay court and see if that helps.
So I have one more tennis question, and then we want to move to your comedy career because
I have a little more on tennis. I want to talk.
Oh, you have more on tennis?
Can talk tennis all day long.
All right, but listen, I think he might rank higher than 864 in comedy.
What's your next question? Go.
My next question is about another GOAT. I can't call a woman a GOAT, but Serena Williams is the greatest of all time, as far as I'm concerned, in female tennis. Do you think she'll ever win another major? She needs one more to tie Margaret Court at 14. I'm just curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I got in trouble. I tweeted that, isn't it funny that Serena's child has never seen her win anything? It's like her kid who's 3.5 may think mom's a loser, and it's like she's got 24 Grand Slams and a bunch. Oh man, when you criticize Serena on the internet, like watch out. It is, they are coming for you. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching her compete her whole career. No one hates losing like Serena Williams. She will take not only you down, the umpire, the stadium, the tournament. She doesn't lose well, and I respect that. I love that. She's not moving great. She doesn't have the weapons. She's putting so much pressure on herself to win right now. I would be, and you can record this and you can send it to me over and over again if I'm wrong, I would be absolutely baffled if Serena Williams won another Grand Slam.
I mean, the thing with female tennis is this. Serena Williams motivated these young American females to play tennis, and she did a great job. And doing the off-court stuff that she did and the on-court stuff makes her the GOAT in my book. There's no one that did more for female tennis than her and her sister and even the dad who trained these kids in Compton, which is unbelievable. But I mean, that all being said, Serena is just, there's no one's going to match her on the court ever again. And I hope people appreciate her.
I agree with you. When you watch, the Women's Olympics is coming up. Watch out of the 64 women playing, all of them can hit a great serve now. Okay. There was a time when the only person who could really serve was like one person. Serena Williams, maybe Martina Navratilova back then. They can all serve. Why is that? Because of Serena Williams. Serena Williams will serve you off the court. She is one of the best servers of ever. So it's like it's different eras, but 100%. The people that beat Serena now all the time grew up watching her, taking notes.
So one more question in tennis, then we'll talk comedy, which I love to talk about. The Olympics are coming up. The U.S. Open's coming up. Yep. Djokovic wins both. He wins, like, I guess we call it the Golden Slam. Is that I don't
yeah,
know.
That's what you call it. Only because Steffi Graf did it in '88, maybe.
And that's impressive. You knew that.
It might be 80.
Do you think Djokovic can do this? I mean, it's a hard task. I mean, Federer's not playing in the Olympics. He already said, "I'm not playing."
Right. But I talked about this on my podcast this week. I was like, Novak, why are you playing the Olympics? Rest. You played this insane French Open to beat the king of clay, Rafael Nadal. You just won Wimbledon. Take a break, and get ready for the U.S. Open. And then I talked about how my mentality, the reason I had 3 digits in my ranking, was that's how I thought about things. Protect it. That's not how champions think, man. You know what Novak's thinking? He's thinking, not only did I win the Australian, the French, and Wimbledon, I'm going to fucking dunk on you guys and win the gold medal and then win the U.S. Open. And it is that mindset that he just absolutely, like a wolf. And he compared himself to a wolf after a match in Wimbledon. He said, if there's any animal that I'm like, it's a wolf. He wants to devour you, and he wants to devour the field.
Well, we see why he gets where he does. I mean, it's true. I think tennis, maybe more than any other sport, tennis and basketball are the 2 sports that I see that are so dominated by the mental game and whether you're in the right mindset. But let's talk about comedy.
And I would say movement for both of those are very compatible. The actual physical act of how you move and the footwork needed and the different 360 degrees you have to move, those sports are very compatible.
Well, listen, I'm a mind-body specialist. I know how you're thinking is going to determine what happens in the body.
Yep.
And this is true in comedy too. If you get up there and you're not in a good headspace, that's not going to go up.
So Michael, how does a kid from Illinois, played University of Illinois, really good in tennis, unbelievable athlete, decide, you know what, I want to be a stand-up comic? How does that come out?
Yeah. Well, so much downtime when you play tennis. If I'm in Mexico playing a future for $240 if I win the match, $100 if I lose, and my hotel bill that night is, $180. You've got 10 hours to wait all day. You can't really work out. You can do a little bit, but you can't burn too many calories. You wait. So what would I do to try to disperse some of this nervous energy? It was I would write jokes. I would try to come up with ideas that I thought were funny. It really started as a pressure diffuser. There's no way I can be so consumed with the nerves and anxiety of this upcoming match if I'm trying to write a joke. So then I got I stopped playing tennis. I ran out of money. I got the job coaching at University of Michigan. I was the assistant men's coach there, and there was an open mic at a German bar, and I grabbed my joke books and did a couple jokes. Got drunk first, did some jokes, went better than I thought.
Going to get really drunk before you do your set. That's
I mean, my sister got drunk with me. She's now 14 years sober. I don't know what that says about my set, but it just spoke to me. And the art form of one person with an amplification device versus the crowd, that's the way I perceive it. And maybe that is very tennis of me, but it was something that I just once I did it, I got to keep going.
You met lots of tennis players over time. Do you think you are the best comedian tennis player?
The best comedian tennis player? Kurt Fox is a funny stand-up comic, and
Kurt Fox has been on our show.
Oh, has he been on here?
That he is the best tennis player when it comes to comedians. What's your thought on that?
He is an excellent tennis player, and but look, let's just be frank. I would smoke his ass in an actual 2 out of 3 set match. But he invited me to play once. in LA. He gives me the address. I don't know how you guys work, but I get any home address straight to Zillow is what I do now. I am looking through all photos. This was a mansion, okay, in the Hollywood Hills. And I go, look, I know Kurt Fox hosted like a DNA, Are You the Dad talk show, but this is not that kind of money. I get to this house. It is a mansion. It's got gates. There's 5 luxury cars being washed at the same time. It's got a pristine, private, distanced away from the house, green clay tennis court. And of course, you know who it is. This is Dr. Phil's house.
Dr. Phil and they're best friends. I know that they talks about him all the time.
Dr. Phil's his boy. They played tennis. So I played with Kurt. We had a great match. And then we played doubles with Dr. Phil. And Kurt Fox could not beat me in tennis, but he's got way better tennis connections than Kosta does.
Who was the fourth? I have to ask.
It was another good player, and I don't remember who it was.
Bjorn Borg.
It was Bjorn Borg. It was
another good player, Bjorn Borg.
So when you're on the road, do you bring your tennis racket with you when you do gigs on the road?
I have a few times. When you played as much tennis as me with the practicing that we spoke about, it does lose some of its passion. The last couple years, I don't know how you guys are, but as I've gotten older, I've realized, hey, there's only so many things that I'm actually good at. I used to, when you're young, you're like, I'm good at so many things. And now it's like, no, let's enjoy that you're good at tennis because you kind of suck at everything else. So I enjoy being good at comedy and I enjoy being good at tennis. But as you also know, Ross, you're not waking up early on the road. So there's not too much time.
So let's talk about your podcast, Tennis Anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where did this podcast come from?
Before you talk about it, do you know who the original person that said Tennis Anyone, why it became famous? I know the answer.
Well, I purposely did not put a question mark after the anyone because what I'm trying to do with the podcast is tennis for anyone. So I talk about tennis and you're going to hear some tennis, but oftentimes we are getting into when my dad showed me his foreskin at a Days Inn bathroom. And we're getting into like how my brothers used to beat me. We're talking about life,
Life.
Who said Tennis Anyone? Well, it must've been a comedian. It must've been tied to Tonight Show. No, Ross?
No. It's at 1920s, a theater actor and also a film actor, very tall, very good looking, named Sonny Tufts. Actually came up with it in a movie, and it caught on, and it never left. I mean, Sonny Tufts is the answer. I gave you some knowledge today.
Yeah,
and I knew that because my dad told me that because I had a friend in high school that looked like Sonny Tufts, and he knew who Sonny Tufts was. And that all being said, that's how I remembered who Sonny Tufts is.
Hold on.
You can get him on the podcast.
You had a friend in high school who looked like a guy from the 1920s. I just need to. That needs to be
my
noted.
My stepdad, who I think you know who he is. It's Bud Friedman of the Improvs. He's the one that said your friend Ben looks like Sonny Tufts, and I said, who's Sonny Tufts? He said, well, that's the guy who came up with the verse of Tennis Anyone. Tell us about isn't it weird how life goes? And I was like 17 years old.
That's funny.
So tell us about your podcast is doing well. You have guests on the show. Tell us about some of your guests.
I haven't done too many guests. I haven't done too many guests on Tennis Anyone. It's basically Kosta talking about tennis in life. My Instagram feed has got a lot of different stuff on it. The last thing I think that a lot of people reacted well to was my Daily Show piece about the New York mayoral race, where I interviewed a bunch of New York mayors about New York stuff, a bunch of New York candidates about New York mayoral stuff. But I booked guests forever and I got over it. How many emails did I have to respond to finally say yes to this thing? Fuck guests, and I realize I'm bulldozing your podcast as a guest, but I got tired of it.
We enjoy, we do everything here on MFSN. We have guests, we have fantasy talk about sports. You name the sport, we talk about it. And we enjoy talking to different types of people all the time.
You get excellent guests. You get excellent guests, but if you remove me from it, some power hitters, and I certainly would say that's more tied to Ross than Dr. Dan. That's for sure, huh?
Yeah, there's been a couple that I brought on, but
Claudia Jordan. I give him credit for Claudia Jordan.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's very pretty, and she was great. Great, she can talk to anybody.
That's true. I brought on the prettiest guest.
You actually did. So, quick question. So, when you're on the road, have you ever done like a hustle like Agassi used to do when he was a kid? When his dad used to set up these matches with all these rich guys in Vegas, and they would show up, and this 14-year-old kid be holding a racket, and they would bet they can't be, they beat the kid.
Can't beat.
Did you ever do that hustle with being a stand up and not? I
used to do that with dating a little. Like I play tennis. Oh, do you want to go play sometime? And then you kind of show up and you look raggedy, and then all of a sudden you'd kind of want her to realize like, whoa, this guy's really good at tennis, but. My favorite tennis hustle stories are Bobby Riggs. This guy was in the days of amateur tennis when you made no money. The only way he would make any money was he would bet on himself. I mean, this guy bet on himself to win Wimbledon singles, doubles, and mixed doubles, and he did. He used to go to Central Park as the #1 tennis player in the world, and he would play people while holding 10 dogs on a leash. He played one guy for $10,000, and he said, you can put 4 park benches anywhere on my side of the court. This guy was remarkably good at tennis and a gambling-aholic. And, part of the most viewed tennis match of all time, which was the Battle of the Sexes. And I would say that he underestimated Bobby Riggs. That he underestimated Billie Jean King. And I would say Billie Jean King definitely beat him, but to not talk about how this guy liked to hustle and gamble is not telling the whole side of the story.
I just want to ask one other question about The Daily Show. You've gotten involved in The Daily Show. I've seen some of your pieces, very funny. And I wondered, just tell us about your latest one. Was it the mayoral one?
Yeah, the latest one, New York City's having this mayoral election, which is really the Democratic primary, because everybody's such a lib here that if whoever wins the Democratic primary wins. So I just got together with a bunch of them at a park and talked to them and asked them questions about New York City. And, it's fun talking to mayoral candidates because it's not as national and it's not as polished. They'll just come meet you at a park and sit on the steps and talk to you about their favorite rom-com. So that's what we did. That's posted on Daily Show's website and Twitter and my Instagram. And we're starting to get back out in the field, which is good because we haven't been able to.
Well, this has been a pleasure, Michael. And you are hilarious.
Thank you.
I know you're good at tennis. You're also good at comedy, but we're going to keep track of your rankings in comedy. I think
I'm probably better than 864 in tennis and comedy.
I think you are personally. It's much higher. We'll come back to you with a rating later.
Please.
In fact, we might need to see you again. We might need to have you back.
Okay.
To find out more.
I always thought it would be great if they ranked all comedians because I'm so sick and tired of comedians telling me they're funny and then they're not. And then the funniest comics are so bad at self-promoting. And you're like, why aren't you higher on the ranking? I wish there was comedy.
No, you're right. We need a ranking system for comedians. We'll work on it.
For anybody listening, any comic who tells you that they always kill and is always telling you how funny they are, those are the worst comics.
The
Ross,
worst comics. I mean, the comics that self-promote are usually the worst. Not the worst, but they're not as funny as they think they are. And the guys who don't take themselves that seriously are great. I mean, I could give you a million examples.
Yeah.
But Michael, thanks for coming on. Please watch his podcast, Tennis Anyone, Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Unbelievable.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you again soon.
And let's watch Olympics and U.S. Open and see if Novak can create history. So thank you. Thanks, guys.
He'll win.
Thanks, Michael.